What happens when a Hollywood legend walks onto a daytime talk show stage expecting a friendly chat, and instead finds himself stepping into a storm he never saw coming? Before we dive into the moment that left the studio breathless, hit that subscribe button for stage view, drop a like, and tell us in the comments what you think is really going on behind moments like these. Because today's story is one that people are still arguing about. The morning lights over New York shimmered against the windows of the studio, the kind of crisp brightness that made everything seem deceptively calm. Inside, however, the energy was restless. The View's audience had filled the seats early, whispering about the special guest of the day, SamuelLJackson, the man whose presence alone could electrify a room, the cinematic force whose voice could slice silence in half. People expected charisma, humor, maybe a spicy comment or two. They had no idea they were minutes away from witnessing something that would dominate every trending list by afternoon. Behind the curtain, Samuel stood with his hands tucked into the pockets of his dark jacket, bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet, the way he always did before stepping into the public eye. He wasn't nervous, not him. But he was thinking about the movie he was here to promote, thinking about the endless press tour, thinking about wishing he had slept more. His brow furrowed as a production assistant finished adjusting the tiny mic clip to his lapel. "You're on in 30, Mr. Jackson," she said, voice soft, practiced. He nodded with a small smile. "Let's go make people wake up," he muttered, half to himself. On the other side of the curtain, the hosts settled into place. Whoopi glanced over at Sunny Hostin, who seemed unusually focused, flipping through a few cards, notes she had added last minute. Her eyebrows were tight, her expression unreadable. Joy whispered something that made Whoopi smirk, but Sunny didn't join in. Whatever she was preparing for, she wasn't planning to smile through it. The audience applause sign flashed, and the room erupted into cheers as the hosts bantered lightly, warming the air with familiar humor. Then came the introduction, delivered with excitement. "Please welcome the one and only, SamuelLJackson." The room exploded. People rose to their feet. A camera swung toward the entrance, catching Samuel as he walked out with that slow, confident stride, offering that sly grin that had charmed moviegoers for decades. He waved, clasped a few hands, bumped a fan's fist. By the time he reached the table, the applause had already grown into a pulse, filling the whole stage like a heartbeat. He took his seat between Whoopi and Sunny, thanking them warmly. For a moment, everything seemed perfectly normal. For a moment. "So, Samuel," Whoopi began, leaning back comfortably, "you've been busy. A new film, another franchise appearance. You don't rest, huh?" Samuel chuckled. "Rest is for people with less expensive habits." The audience laughed. But Sunny wasn't laughing. Not yet. She waited, watching him closely, waiting for the banter to settle. She tapped her fingers lightly against the stack of cards on the table. Her eyes burned with a quiet intensity that Samuel noticed only briefly. He didn't think anything of it at the time. Who would? The conversation began smoothly. Film talk, career reflections. A few jokes lobbed back and forth like softballs in a friendly game. Samuel was relaxed, leaning back in his chair, until Sunny shifted forward, placing her cards deliberately in front of her. She cleared her throat. "I want to ask you something," she said, her tone sharper, more precise. "Something a bit more serious." The air tightened. Samuel noticed. So did everyone else. "All right," he replied cautiously. "Shoot." Sunny looked at him, then at the audience, then back at him. Her voice lowered, but somehow grew heavier. "In a recent interview," she said, "you made a comment about how actors these days don't know how to be grateful. And some people felt that was, well, dismissive. Especially of younger black actors. Do you still stand by that?" Samuel blinked slowly. The question wasn't unexpected. Controversy always found him somehow. But the way she asked it, the tone, the pointed edge, it was something else. Something he hadn't braced for. He straightened slightly. "Context matters," he said evenly. "That was part of a longer conversation about professionalism, not entitlement. And I think that's been twisted." Sunny held his gaze. "Twisted by whom?" The audience murmured, soft, confused, intrigued. Samuel's jaw tensed. "Media. Social media. People who take clips out of context." Sunny didn't break eye contact. Or was it maybe that the comment came off harsher than you intended? His eyebrows lifted, surprised not by the question itself, but the way she delivered it. Like she wasn't interviewing him, but cross-examining him. Whoopi shifted uncomfortably, giving Sunny a sidelong glance. Joy pressed her lips together, sensing tension. The audience leaned in. Even the camera operators stopped blinking as often. Samuel inhaled. Slow. Steady. He had been in heated interviews before. Many, but this felt different. He sensed it, the way a man senses a storm in the air just before lightning cracks open the sky. Well, he said carefully, people who've worked with me know what I meant. They know the difference between calling for accountability and tearing someone down. Sunny tapped the cards again. But don't you think comments from someone with your platform can discourage young actors? Especially those who are already fighting for space in Hollywood. Samuel's eyes narrowed. Not angrily, yet. More like he was trying to understand what game was being played. Are we having a conversation? He asked slowly. Or are you trying to make me apologize for something you think I meant? A ripple moved through the audience, like a wave passing under a dock. Even the live captioner paused a beat, unsure of where this was going. Sunny exhaled, leaning back only slightly. I'm asking you to clarify, because a lot of people were hurt. Samuel stared at her, expression unreadable now. His voice dropped a shade, still calm, but edged with steel. A lot of people get hurt by things I never said, he replied. And I'm not in the business of apologizing for other people's assumptions. Whoopi stepped in lightly, laughing awkwardly. Okay, before we turn this into a courtroom. But Sunny wasn't finished. And what about the comments you made about the industry being soft now? She pressed. Samuel's jaw clicked. A small, nearly invisible flex. But the camera caught it, he said. Was a joke. Some people didn't take it as one, she countered. Not my problem, he shot back. The room froze. The kind of silence that feels like the world taking a breath right before yelling. Sunny's expression sharpened. So you're saying you don't care how your words land? Samuel leaned forward now, his voice low, controlled, dangerous in its quiet. What I'm saying, he murmured, is that if people want to put intentions on my words that weren't there, I am not obligated to carry that weight. The audience reacted, not loudly, just a soft sound of tension, shock, disbelief. And if you knew anything about how long I've been doing this, he continued, you'd know that I choose my words very carefully. Sunny's eyes flashed, hurt, challenge, something deeper. I do know how long you've been doing this, she said. And I also know your words carry influence. Influence isn't the same as responsibility, he said. It should be, she replied. Something electric crackled between them. A spark that felt personal now, not professional. Whoopi raised a hand. Okay, you two, let's bring it down. But neither of them looked at her. Are you questioning my character? Samuel asked, voice dropping so low the microphone strained to catch it. I'm questioning your awareness, Sunny replied. The gasp from the audience was louder this time. Not explosive, but sharp. Uncontrolled. Samuel blinked once. Twice. A slow, dangerous calm washed across his face. The kind of calm a person feels when they realize something has crossed a line. That's bold, he whispered. Sunny straightened. Well, this show is about honesty. And respect, he snapped quietly. Joy shifted in her seat. Whoopi mouthed something like, oh boy. There was tension on the view before, plenty of it. But this felt charged in a different way. Like two forces colliding, each unwilling to step back. Sunny opened her mouth to respond again, but Samuel suddenly raised a hand. Not rudely, but firmly enough that it stunned the table. Let me finish, he said. She paused, lips pressed together. Samuel took a breath, his voice steady again but heavy. I came here to talk about my work. My craft. Not to have my integrity questioned. Sunny's eyes flickered. Regret? Or simply holding her ground? You made public comments, she said softly. We're addressing them publicly. By trying to put motives on me that I didn't have, he asked. We're asking for accountability. I'm not here to be lectured, he said. Another ripple of murmurs. A camera zoomed in on Sunny's face, tight, thoughtful, unreadable. Then to Samuel's, stern, focused, wounded beneath the surface. Whoopi tried again. Okay, let's. But Samuel wasn't done. You know, he said, turning slightly towards Sunny. I've done this show many times. Had tough questions. Real conversations. But this, he motioned between them. This feels like something else. Sunny's voice dropped too. Maybe you're not used to someone pushing back. He stared at her, stunned, not by the words, but by the quiet fire behind them. The audience was completely silent now. No coughs. No shifting chairs. Nothing. Samuel leaned back slowly, running a hand over his jaw. His voice was soft, but it cut through the air. Oh, I can handle pushback, he said. But I don't like being misrepresented. Sunny inhaled deeply. I'm not misrepresenting you. You are, he said firmly. And you know it. Her fingers tightened around her cards. Whoopi finally leaned in, placing a hand between them lightly, like a referee stepping between two fighters. Okay, she said, voice firm. We're going to take a quick break. But even before the cameras cut, Samuel and Sunny were still staring at each other. Not angrily, not yelling, just locked in a quiet, fierce clash of wills. A tension so sharp the entire room felt carved open by it. And the audience, every single person, knew they were witnessing something real, something raw, something that was far from over, something that would continue the moment they returned from commercial break. The moment the studio lights dimmed for commercial break, the room didn't relax, it tightened. Usually, when cameras cut, the hosts loosen up, makeup crews swoop in, assistants whisper updates, someone cracks a joke. But now, silence. No one moved at first, as if even a breath might shatter the fragile air. Samuel exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair. Not angry. No, anger was easy for people to read, and he wasn't giving that. What sat behind his eyes now was something heavier, quieter, something that came from being misunderstood one too many times. Sunny kept her gaze lowered, shuffling her cards, her jaw stiff. She hadn't expected the conversation to turn like this. Not so fast, not so sharply. She felt the heat in her chest, a mix of conviction and unease. The question she had asked was fair in her mind. Necessary. But the way Samuel reacted, that wasn't nothing. That was a bruise she didn't expect to land so hard. Producers rushed the stage in hushed chaos. Everything all right? One whispered to Samuel. He didn't answer at first. He simply stared ahead, the studio lights reflecting in his expression like distant stars. Yeah, he muttered eventually. I'm fine. Another producer leaned in toward Sunny. You okay? She nodded, tight-lipped. I'm doing my job. The producer hesitated, unsure whether to step back or intervene. The tension between the two of them, between Hollywood legend and legal analyst turned host, had the kind of explosive potential that producers normally salivated over. But today, something about it felt dangerous. Too real. Too raw. Nearby, Joy whispered to Whoopi. I thought we were talking about the movie today. Whoopi sighed, rubbing her temples. So did I. Behind them, the crowd whispered. Some were excited, eyes sparkling with the thrill of live drama. Others were uncomfortable, shifting in their seats, wondering if what they saw was a debate or a crack between two human beings trying not to lose their composure. Samuel glanced toward Sunny for the first time since the cameras cut. She felt it, lifting her eyes instinctively. They locked again. But this time neither spoke. It was the kind of silence that had weight, two people assessing not just each other, but themselves. Their words, the impact, the meaning behind them. A stage manager called out, We're back in 10. Positions. The host settled. Samuel straightened his jacket. Sunny placed her cards neatly in front of her. The tension didn't fade. It sharpened, preparing to snap. 5, 4, 3, 2. The music swelled, the lights flared, and the show returned. Whoopi took the lead, her voice calm but edged with urgency. Welcome back. We're here with SamuelLJackson. We were having a spirited conversation before the break. Laughter from the audience, nervous, uncertain. Samuel smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Sunny didn't smile at all. Whoopi pushed forward. Let's pivot slightly. Samuel, you've always been outspoken about the industry, about political issues, about social issues. Do you think being so outspoken has changed how people react to you now? That question was a lifeline disguised as conversation. A bridge. A neutral zone. Samuel took it. For sure, he said, leaning forward. People hear my voice and think I'm yelling, even when I'm not. They hear my opinion and think I'm attacking. They hear me speak honestly and think I'm trying to start a fight. Sunny shifted slightly, her expression unreadable. Samuel continued, But I say what I believe. I've been doing this for decades, and I don't plan on stopping. Sunny met his words with quiet resolve. You have every right to speak your truth, but people also have the right to respond to it. Samuel nodded once. They do, but they also have the responsibility to understand what they're reacting to. Which is why context matters, she said softly. He raised an eyebrow. Exactly. The audience murmured. There was a strange sense of agreement, yet the tension hadn't dissolved. It had changed form, like smoke shifting shapes. But then Sunny looked down at her cards. And the moment she did, Samuel's posture shifted. He recognized that look. Another question was coming. One she had saved. One heavier than the rest. "Let's talk about something else," she began. "In that same interview, you mentioned that actors today rely too much on sympathy rather than skill." Samuel cut in sharply. "I didn't say that." Sunny blinked. "You said." He leaned forward, voice firm. "I said actors today sometimes expect opportunities without putting in the work. That's not the same thing." "It sounded similar," she insisted. "No," he shot back. "It sounded like something people wanted to twist it into." There was again that spark. That collision. Sunny's voice grew quieter. "You don't think people could have interpreted it that way?" "Interpretation isn't the same as truth. But interpretation is how the public hears you." Samuel shook his head, a low laugh escaping, not amused but incredulous. "So now I'm responsible for how everyone interprets anything I say." Sunny held his gaze. "When you're in your position, yes." The audience murmured again, this time louder, divided. Some nodding, some frowning. Samuel exhaled slowly, frustration rising but controlled. "Let me ask you something." Sunny straightened, bracing. "Okay, if you say something on this show," he said carefully, "and someone online takes one sentence out of context and turns it into something ugly, are you responsible for their bad faith interpretation?" Sunny hesitated, just for a heartbeat. "It depends," she said. "On what?" "On intention," she answered softly. Samuel stared at her. "And what do you think my intention was?" "That's what we're trying to clarify," she replied. "Clarify." The word landed like a small, sharp stone. He leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Feels more like you're trying to pin something on me that you already made your mind up about." Sunny's breath caught, not visibly, but enough that her shoulders stiffened. "I'm asking questions," she said. "That's my job. And answering them honestly is mine," he replied. Whoopi jumped in again, sensing the rise in temperature. "All right, let's not put words in each other's mouths." But Samuel kept going, his voice cutting cleanly through the air. "If you watched the whole interview, Sunny, you'd know exactly what I meant." The studio froze. Sunny's eyes flashed with something deep. Hurt, offense, or indignation. Maybe all three. "I did watch it," she said, her voice trembling but only slightly. "Every minute." Silence rippled across the room, slow and heavy. Samuel leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Then don't tell me what I meant." Sunny's throat tightened. She swallowed. "I'm telling you how it sounded." "To who?" he asked. "To you." "To a lot of people." Samuel shook his head, disbelief settling in his expression. "Or to people who wanted to misunderstand me." Sunny bit her lip, gathering herself. Her voice when she spoke was soft but strong. "Samuel, when you've been in this industry as long as you have, you know words carry weight. You know how people talk. You know what resonates. And I'm responsible for all of that now," he asked. "You're responsible for what you say," she replied, "and how it affects others." He stared at her, long unblinking. A battle fought entirely in silence. The audience was dead quiet, like they were afraid to breathe. Then Samuel spoke, slow, deliberate. "You know what affects me? Being told what I meant by someone who wasn't in the room when I said it." Sunny's jaw tightened. "I'm not telling you what you meant." "You're implying it," he countered. "I'm asking for clarity." "You're pushing for guilt." Sunny inhaled sharply. "That's not fair." Samuel leaned closer. "Neither is twisting my words. And neither is dismissing people's reactions," she shot back. There it was, emotion, raw and unmasked. The crack in her voice was slight, but real. Human. It hit Samuel deeper than he expected. His expression softened, only slightly, but enough to be noticeable. His voice dropped. "I'm not dismissing anyone," he said quietly. "I'm just tired of being blamed for things I didn't say." Sunny's eyes flickered. Not victory, not defeat, something more complicated. Understanding. Even if she didn't show it fully, it was there. A ghost behind her expression. Whoopi stepped in with the perfect blend of steel and grace. "Okay," she said. "I think we all need a breath." The audience exhaled collectively, like they had been waiting for permission. But Samuel wasn't done, not entirely. He looked at Sunny, his voice calm now. "If you want clarity, ask me directly. But don't come at me sideways." Sunny absorbed that, then nodded, barely, but enough. "Fair." For the first time since the clash began, something softened between them. Not peace, not agreement, but pause. Whoopi seized the moment. "Let's move on to the film." But the audience didn't clap. They weren't ready to leave. They didn't want the tension to break. They wanted to see where it would go. Samuel glanced toward the crowd, then back at Sunny. Ask me what you really want to ask. And Sunny froze. Because he was right. She did have a bigger question. A question she had debated all morning whether to ask. A question she knew could crack everything open. Her fingers tightened around her cards. Her breath caught in her throat. You sure? She whispered. Samuel nodded. Yeah, go ahead. And just like that, the air in the studio stiffened again. Every eye locked onto Sunny. Every camera zoomed in. Even the lights seemed to burn brighter, as if leaning forward to listen. Sunny looked up, meeting Samuel's gaze with unwavering intensity. All right, she said. Quiet. Final. And then she asked the question that changed everything. Sunny's fingers trembled ever so slightly as she set her cards down. Not enough for television to see, not blatantly, but enough for Samuel to notice. Enough for the studio to feel an invisible shift. The audience sensed it too, like they were sitting on the edge of a cliff, and only Sunny knew how steep the drop really was. Her voice came out softer than expected, yet edged with unmistakable conviction. In that same interview, she began slowly, you said that some actors today don't understand the history of the craft. Samuel nodded once. Yes, I did. Sunny inhaled, bracing herself. Some people felt you were speaking about actors of color specifically, that you were calling them unprepared. Samuel blinked. That's not what I said. But it's what people heard, she countered. He leaned forward slightly. People hear a lot of things I don't say. Sunny's jaw tightened. So let me ask you clearly, because there's real pain around this topic. Were you targeting black actors with that comment? The air cracked. Not a sound. Not a gasp. A feeling, sharp, electric, the kind of tension that tightens the back of the neck and leaves the entire body motionless. Samuel stared at her, stunned, not by the question itself, but by how directly she asked it. The kind of directness that feels like stepping over a line, or maybe finally reaching one that needed to be crossed. Whoopi's eyes shot wide. Joy's hand flew up to her mouth. The audience froze. No breathing, no movement, the entire studio turning into a vacuum. Samuel didn't look angry. Not yet. What washed across his face was something deeper. Disappointment. Hurt. And something like disbelief. He spoke slowly, voice lower than the microphones preferred. No, I wasn't targeting black actors. Sunny held his gaze. Then who were you referring to? Actors who don't study their craft, he replied. Regardless of race. But your examples, she began. Were examples, he snapped. Not yelling. Not harsh. But sharp enough to slice the space between them. Not accusations. Sunny swallowed. People felt. Stop telling me what people felt, he said firmly. Tell me what you think. The words hit her like a sudden gust of air. She opened her mouth, then closed it. That wasn't the direction she expected this to go. Samuel leaned in more. Because it sounds to me like you're not asking on behalf of people. You're asking because you think I meant something else. Sunny froze. Her breath hitched in her chest. The audience leaned forward, barely blinking. It's my job to challenge you, she whispered. And it's my job, Samuel said, to challenge the way you're framing this. Sunny's voice trembled, but she didn't back down. I think your comments landed in a painful context. And that context isn't my fault, Samuel replied. Whoopi attempted to jump in again, her tone wavering between humor and worry. Okay, kids, can we? But Sunny suddenly spoke over her, not loud, but with a clarity that stunned the table. When I was growing up, she said, the few black actors I admired, actors like you, were my roadmap, my guideposts. And when someone like you criticizes the new generation, it hurts. Because it feels like the door is being closed behind you. Silence. A different kind now. Not sharp. Not hostile. Heavy. Human. Samuel blinked. Once. Twice. Something in his posture shifted. His shoulders softened, just slightly. You think that's what I'm doing? He asked quietly. Sunny's eyes glistened, not tears, but intensity. She didn't look away. I think some people heard it that way. No, Samuel said gently. I'm not asking what people heard. I'm asking you. And now Sunny couldn't avoid the question. She inhaled shakily. Yes, she whispered. Part of me did. The words hung between them like a confession no one expected to hear. The audience reacted, not gasps, but a soft exhale, like collective vulnerability settling over the room. Samuel leaned back slowly, absorbing her words. His voice lowered to something raw and unguarded. Sunny, I've spent my whole life fighting to open that door, kicking it open, and I'm still holding it open. If anyone felt otherwise, that hurts me. The honesty in his voice hit Sunny harder than anything else had. She blinked, her expression faltering. Samuel, I wasn't trying to. I know, he said quietly. You were doing your job. The tension in the room melted just a fraction, but only a fraction. The conflict wasn't gone. It had simply changed color, from sharp confrontation to something deeper, something painful. Sunny took a shaky breath, steadying herself. When your words carry weight, they become part of our conversations. Our debates. Our fears. Samuel nodded slowly. I get that, but don't put intentions on me that were never there. I wasn't trying to, she said softly. But you did, he replied, gentle but firm. The audience watched them like they were witnessing two people standing on opposite sides of a river, both wanting to cross but unsure how. Whoopi saw the shift, the rawness, and decided not to interrupt this time. The moment was too real to cut off. Sunny's voice broke the quiet again, quieter now. Do you ever feel like people expect you to be their hero? Their spokesman? Like you can't make one imperfect statement without being dissected. Samuel gave a breathy laugh. Not joy, not amusement, but exhaustion. Every damn day. Sunny held his eyes. Then maybe that's where all this tension really comes from. He looked at her for a long, unfiltered moment. Maybe. A subtle warmth flickered between them. Not agreement, not forgiveness, but mutual recognition. But then Samuel straightened, leaning forward again. But you still put my words in a corner they weren't meant to be in. Sunny bit her bottom lip. I was asking a question. No, Samuel said. You were making an accusation with a question mark at the end. The room tightened again. Not as sharply as before, but enough to raise heartbeats. Sunny didn't recoil. She didn't fold. Instead, she steadied herself, wiping a thumb against the edge of her card. Then let me ask the question without assumptions, she said, tone measured and brave. What did you mean by saying actors don't study the history of the craft? Samuel paused. Finally, he spoke. I meant that people want the glory without the grind. They want fame without the foundation. They want shortcuts instead of studying the greats, black, white, everyone. Actors today, many of them, don't understand the roots of what they're stepping into. Sunny nodded slowly. And do you think that's a generational problem? It's a human problem, he replied. A shortcut problem. A social media spotlight problem. Something in Sunny's expression softened even further. Then maybe that's what people needed to hear. Samuel looked at her deeply. Then maybe ask me that instead of assuming the worst. She exhaled, lowering her gaze. Fair. The audience whispered, tension easing just a little, replaced by something more thoughtful, almost solemn. But then Sunny raised her eyes again. A new fire. A new courage. One last question. And this one isn't about the interview. Samuel raised a brow. All right. Do you feel, she said steadily, that you're misunderstood more now than ever? That people want you to slip? To say the wrong thing? The question stunned him. You could see it in how his shoulders lifted and dropped. How his eyes softened. How his sigh seemed to escape without permission. Yes, he said quietly. All the time. Sunny's expression shifted. Not victory, not satisfaction, empathy. And does that make you defensive? She asked. He didn't flinch. Yes. The word echoed. Soft. Vulnerable. Unexpected. Sunny nodded, absorbing it. Then maybe that's what we were really talking about. Samuel gave a small, wry smile. Maybe. Whoopi stepped in now, voice warm. Look, this is the view. We talk. We debate. We disagree. And then we try to understand each other. Samuel looked at Sunny. Sunny looked at Samuel. Not enemies. Not opponents. Two people trying, failing, trying again. But tension isn't undone in a moment. Just when it seemed the air might settle, a voice from the audience, soft but clear, called out. We love you, Samuel. Laughter rippled through the studio, relieved, human. Samuel smiled, loosening. I love y'all too. But Sunny wasn't laughing. Not entirely. Her gaze lingered on Samuel with something unresolved. Something unspoken. Something that hinted the conversation wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because the real impact, the real fracture, the real emotional explosion hadn't happened yet. That was coming. And part 4 would show how the clash didn't end at the table. No, it detonated across social media. Across the press. Across the world. And neither Samuel nor Sunny could escape the fallout. The studio felt strangely hollow in the seconds after Samuel L. Jackson exited. The echo of his final words, sharp, firm, and unyielding, seemed to hover above the set long after the doors shut behind him. Sunny Hostin sat frozen in her chair, leaning slightly forward, lips parted but unable to form a single word. Her eyes flickered with the reflection of studio lights, yet the brightness couldn't hide the trembling beneath her composure. Whoopi slowly exhaled, the sound a deep sigh that carried years of exhaustion from mediating on-air chaos. Joy shifted uncomfortably, clutching her cue cards like a lifeline. Sarah stared at the table, the shock still fresh on her face. Only the audience filled the void. A wave of gasps rippled first, then a chorus of whispers raced through the studio like wildfire. Some looked stunned, others looked thrilled. A few even looked satisfied, as if they had witnessed something rare. Television crossing the thin seam between performance and reality. In the control room upstairs, producers scrambled like firefighters at an emergency scene. Cut to wide shot. No, hold. Is he off the premises? Do we go to break? Someone answer me. God, this is going to explode online. And they were right. But back on the stage, the silence between the co-hosts grew more unbearable than the confrontation itself. Sunny lifted one hand slowly, pressing her fingertips to her temple. Even her breathing was uneven now, shallow and unsteady. I didn't mean, she murmured, her voice barely audible, the words swallowed by the stage before anyone could respond. Whoopi glanced at her with a mixture of concern and weary frustration. Sunny, she began, choosing her words with the precision of a surgeon trying not to cause further injury. You pushed him. Sunny blinked hard. Once. Twice. Her throat moved as she swallowed. I just asked a question. You asked a question you knew would hit a nerve, Whoopi said, not unkindly, but not softly either. There's a difference. Sarah finally looked up, her face sympathetic but guarded. It just escalated so fast, she whispered. 1 second it was a normal interview, and then that. Joy shook her head slowly. Television history, she muttered. But history with consequences. Sunny's lips pressed into a thin line, and she sat up straighter, the practiced professionalism beginning to return, though the fragility underneath remained exposed like raw skin. I didn't attack him, she insisted, though her voice quivered just slightly. He's a public figure. We ask tough questions. That's our job. And his job, Whoopi replied calmly, is deciding when he's done answering. A low rumble of audience chatter swelled again. Someone near the front whispered, Did she really think he'd stay after that? Another's voice rose softly. I can't believe he walked out. Not Samuel. Not like that. A third person murmured, This is going on every news site by tonight. Joy's earpiece crackled. She tapped it, listening. Her brows lifted, then drew together tightly. Guys, she said, we're going back live in 10 seconds. Sunny inhaled sharply. Are we addressing it? Whoopi stared ahead, her expression settling like armor returning to its rightful place. We have to. The countdown began. 5. Sunny clasped her hands together to keep them from trembling. 4. Sarah cleared her throat, straightening her posture. 3. Whoopi folded her hands on the table, her face unreadable. 2. Joy blew out a silent breath, bracing herself. 1. The red light blinked on. Whoopi led the moment with the gravity of someone who had weathered hundreds of storms in front of millions. So, as you saw, she began, Samuel L. Jackson has left the building. A ripple of nervous laughter trickled through the audience, quickly dying once they realized no one on stage was smiling. Sunny opened her mouth, but Whoopi gently raised a hand, stopping her. We will talk about it, she continued, but we're not here to escalate things that already hit a boiling point. Sunny's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Sarah spoke next, carefully choosing neutrality. Interviews are unpredictable. Emotions can run high. That's what live television is. Joy added, It's unfortunate when things get heated, but it happens. And today, well, it happened. Sunny finally leaned forward, her voice firm but noticeably softer than before. I respect Samuel L. Jackson. Always have. My intention was not to provoke or disrespect him. But I stand by the importance of asking questions that matter. The audience absorbed her words. Some nodded. Others exchanged skeptical glances. Tension still simmered beneath the applause that followed, thin, polite, restrained. But outside the studio, the world had already ignited. By the time the show cut to commercial, social media was detonating like a digital wildfire. Clips of Samuel standing, shaking his head and saying, "I'm not doing this today." We're spreading in real time. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, millions of views in minutes. Comment sections overflowing with battle lines drawn. Sunny went too far. He overreacted. He handled it like a legend. She was just doing her job. She provoked him. He exposed her bias. She exposed his temper. Iconic television. A complete disaster. News outlets began crafting headlines before the show had even ended broadcasting. Reshaping Hollywood? Jackson walks off The View in explosive clash. Sunny Hostin questions go too far? Internet divided. SamuelLJackson's live-exit sets social media on fire. Inside the dressing rooms, the hosts dispersed quietly. No banter. No jokes. No decompressing chatter. Just the heavy footsteps of people who understood that they had just become the center of a hurricane. Sunny closed her door with a soft click, leaning back against it as the weight of the moment hit her fully for the first time. She covered her face with both hands, breathing unevenly. She replayed the confrontation in her mind, the tone she used, his expression tightening, the anger flickering behind his eyes. Was she wrong? Was he too sensitive? Was it simply a perfect storm of mismatched emotions and raw nerves? Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from friends, colleagues, family, producers, reporters. She didn't pick up any of them. Meanwhile, in the hallway outside, Whoopi walked with slow, heavy steps. She passed a producer who whispered, "This is going to be everywhere." Whoopi gave a half-laugh, half-sigh. "It already is," she replied. As for SamuelLJackson, he exited the building surrounded by his team, who shielded him from paparazzi cameras popping like fireworks. Reporters shouted questions. "Samuel, will you respond to Sunny Hostin's remarks? Are you done with The View? Do you regret walking out?" He didn't answer, but the look on his face, a mix of irritation, disappointment, and something deeper, said everything the cameras needed. By nightfall, the world was collectively transfixed. Reaction videos erupted across YouTube. Commentators dissected every syllable. Body language experts analyzed micro-expressions. Podcasters were reshaping entire episodes just to discuss the clash. Memes flooded every timeline. And at the center stood two people who had never planned to ignite a cultural moment, but now found themselves trapped in the aftermath. As coverage intensified, fans demanded accountability, apologies, explanations. But for now, only one voice mattered: the viewers. And that brings us to you. After witnessing this cinematic clash, the tension, the emotion, the sparks on live television, what do you think? Was Sunny's question justified? Was Samuel's walkout warranted? Who was right? Who crossed the line? Or was it simply a collision of two strong personalities destined to explode? Tell us your thoughts below. Join the conversation. Your voice drives this story forward. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to Stage View for more explosive celebrity confrontations, dramatic showdowns, and stories that pull you straight into the center of the moment. Hit like, drop your opinion in the comments, and stay tuned, because the next shockwave is already coming.